Hey, what's up, y'all? Thanks so much for tuning in and checking out another wonderful episode of SOB, Style of Business, the podcast. This is your girl, Keitra, back with another hot episode. And today I'm speaking to the infamous Trina Rose Frazier, who is the founder and also the main licensed professional counselor and consultant for the Rose Center, of course. So today we have Miss Trina on the line. She's talking to us about the importance of mental health. Without further ado, Trina Rose, drop that introduction for me. Let us know a little bit about you, and we will keep the ball rolling from there.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for reaching out to me for this opportunity to speak with your people from your platform, your constituents. I always find it just an honor, honestly, for anyone to want to talk to me about these things. I love talking about mental wellness. I believe mental health is health, and that there is a mind-body connection that we can't, negate and we can't deny, which is one of the reasons why I started. So I am from Beaumont, Texas. I'm a licensed professional counselor here. I've been in practice for a little over 5 years now. I started my practice at the cusp of the pandemic, right? So I started literally April 2020.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I've been going ever since, right? So I've worked in pretty much every level of mental health with the exception of in the actual state hospital. But I have worked to get people sent to our state hospitals for treatment. And so I've worked everywhere from residential treatment centers to local inpatient facilities. Was on the crisis response team for our local mental health authority. I've also worked in maximum security prisons and the county jail as a therapist as well. And I actually used to be an educator, so I taught science for 5 years also. So
yeah, you're doing it all.
Exactly, right? And so honestly, all of these experiences that I've had prepared me for my private practice experience that I'm in now. So I'm very appreciative of all the internships and the opportunities, because any chance that I got to try something or learn something, I did that.
Yeah.
And so I am also an Army veteran, so proud to be, I'm out now, so I'm done.
Okay, yeah.
But
Thank you for your service.
Of the armed services. Thank you, no problem. And so I think that ultimately I mentioned all of these different things because all of my experiences make me who I am today as the owner and operator of the Rose Center. Because of the different walks of life that I've been exposed to, that I've experienced, I'm able to be that and more for my clients.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and we, like I said, first and foremost, definitely thank you for your services to the country. And it's something that you just mentioned in your introduction that I see, and I didn't even initially discuss this. I think when we were kind of preparing for the interview, but we definitely got to, touch on that mind and body connection. The fact that that's like that's primary, when it comes to mental wellness. And so I want to get into that. But before we do, all right. So you done seen a lot. You done been the services, of course. You also were in the teaching profession. What grade level were you teaching, by the way?
So it's interesting because I always like to clarify that with my armed services experience, I was stateside. So what that means is that I stayed in the continent of the United States for my service.
Yeah.
And I always like to differentiate that because I have a lot of veterans, including my own dad, that has actually seen way more than I've ever been exposed to. So I like to say that although I honor all veterans, we all signed up, we all took an oath to lay our lives on the line for our country, and that's what we did. But when it comes to teaching, I believe you learn a lot about yourself and people when you teach in a public school setting. Now, my teaching career was unique because I started in first grade. And originally, I honestly just used to sub when I was still in college. But I actually started teaching first grade, and then I was moved to middle school. And so I taught 6th and 7th grade science for the bulk of my teaching career. But my last year, I also taught 5th grade science, and I taught 9th grade science. So it's like a whole bunch of different levels. that I taught while I was teaching public school. So.
Yes, yeah, and thank you for clarifying that and summing that all up for me, because that's basically what I was trying to get at in that comment, is the fact that you have a range, you've dealt with a range of different personalities, age groups, and you've had experience with that, and I guess that's definitely important when it comes to mental health. So I want to jump into, like, when it comes to like your specific profession, what are like, well, you know what? I'm gonna save that because I guess that'll probably be. Let's start with this. Like, what aspects of actually being able to provide a service and helping people? Like, what's the most? I don't want to say rewarding, because I know you're rewarded for what you do anyway. But like, what draws you in to actually want to be a resource for like these different people or these different individuals that come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling mentally. And for sometimes people don't know specifically what it is, but what kind of draws you into being that person or that resource that can come in and really help make a difference?
So that's like a multi-layered answer. So I'll try to make it brief,
Yeah.
but also, my family, like, if you were to come to our area and ask about the Fraziers or whatever, like, our family has been known to be just a very loving, very welcoming family. I have a large family, like 18 first cousins. I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And then I find people
Right.
that have like 2 or 3, like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. And so we've always had that. But I also have, with, honestly, a phenomenon that's not new to our culture, right? I have a lot of extra cousins and extra uncles and stuff like that are not blood, but they were raised with my dad and my aunts and uncle, or they were raised with us, and so it's like, my family has been known to be the type that will definitely help others and be very welcoming. And so then when you think about the fact that I am also what people affectionately like to call a PK. My dad has been a minister since I was in the 4th grade. He's been a pastor of our church for like the last 16, 17 years. And so it's like, I'm not going to sit up here and say like I'm the most recognizable Christian by anybody's standards, but I will say that at the end of the day, to have so many people in our lives being raised in the church, families helping build churches, my dad ended up entering the ministry, and just having that be a big part of my life, helping people is just kind of instilled in me, but this is the way that I do it. Because I'm nobody's minister, okay? And I'm definitely not my grandmother. I'm not as nice as her, okay? Right. But I am a person that cares about people. I love learning about how we work. Like, I love learning more about how to help us, to empower us, to take care of ourselves, and to empower us to heal, because a lot of the power of healing lies within us, and I don't think that we understand that. So I spend time in this space trying to help people to feel empowered, but more so to rediscover the power that maybe they haven't acknowledged or they forgot about, to help them to feel the way that they want to feel and to be the version of themselves that they'd like to be.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And, you have to care about people in order to help. So that's another, thing that I think is important, especially kudos to you. And for those of you who don't know, PK means preacher's kid. So I know you probably had to walk a real straight line. But that's funny. I have friends that tell me stories that were, PKs as well. But that's fun, and it's also good. And plus, look at you now, right? So things are great. She laughed like, yeah, okay. I want to talk about the stigma, when it comes specifically within the Black community, when it, mental health and things like that. Because I think we're just now coming to. Well, I know it's been a work in progress. Let me start there. So I don't want to misspeak, but I feel like it's more not acceptable. I'm not even sure what the word is for it, but I know more people are turning to therapists and getting counseling for things that, like, back in the day would be like, oh, just shake it off. It ain't that big of a deal, or you just upset, when really there's a deep-seated anger or frustration or resentment or abuse or something that has happened that's like layers and layers deep, or even generations and generations deep. Can you speak on that a little bit about like how you feel about the current, environment when it comes to like mental wellness within the Black community, and just any advice that you would, or just any information you want to share.
Yes. So one of the things, whenever someone asks me like, why did you come enter into this space, and why did you decide to do the private practice route, right? Because you can work in mental health. I mean, a lot of us start in community mental health, and it's sometimes a very grueling space to be in because it's just so much of a need, right? It's so much going on. It could be very taxing, but at the same time necessary. But I believe that people who look like me deserve to see people who look like them in these spaces. I wanted people in my community to know that you can get healing in a space that is held by someone that looks like you, and that we don't always have to go outside of our community to get help. But with the dynamics of, our ancestors' introduction to this country, with the dynamics of the things that ensued afterwards and whatnot, a lot of times when it came to anything in the professional space, many of our ancestors and even our grandparents, not as far back as, we can speak right here in the 1900s, they had to deal with always seeing someone else who didn't look like them in these authoritative spaces, or these healing, quote unquote, spaces. And the thing about it is, we know there's history. A lot of us, are very familiar with the Tuskegee project and all of those different things on how help was, disguised. It was help disguised in more harm. And so it's a lot of people that, to this day, they don't like the idea of therapy, or they're uncomfortable with it, right? We were also raised in, in a culture at times that is like, do not talk about what goes on in this house. Now, obviously, that has been counterproductive for us in many ways. But the fact is, we have to understand where that stemmed from. When information was used against us, when a lot of our people who came before us thought that they were doing what they were supposed to do, and then it turned out poorly. So a lot of people were shell-shocked in a sense and afraid, but that caused more harm for us. And a lot of people are not going to like what I'm about to say, but that secrecy is what helped a lot of trauma happen. Because we're not talking about it. We can't talk about it because even though such and such did this, we can't mess the family up. We can't do this. But unfortunately, it's like now we're running around with ticking time bombs. We always say you don't know what another person is going through, so be courteous. And people say that, but you really don't know what people are going through. And being a person that sits in the seat that I sit in, I hear a lot of things. And grateful to God that I am actually pretty okay. I don't tend to absorb. I haven't dealt with a lot of transference. I'm able to hold that space. And that is because of the work that is done outside of this space, right? Because you have to be willing to do the work on yourself to be able to sit and hold spaces like this for people who are going to come and tell you some of their darkest and deepest, And so I think that, this is I'm like, Lord, I have so much to say about this, but it all goes into this stigma, because people have misused this space.
Definitely.
To plant things. And so I know that people don't necessarily trust it. Sometimes I tell people, you got to learn to trust yourself. Trust your instincts, right? Those are built within us. That gut instinct, that's not just a stomach pain. That is like your second brain. It is giving you an alert. Just pay attention. But I want to tell everyone that you deserve to heal. Whatever has happened to you that makes you feel like, you just have to sit in whatever you've dealt with because of what you heard and what you think people might say about you. We have to learn how to be able to abandon those ideologies that keep us stunted, because there is healing out there, there's growth out there, and I believe that each person is worth it. But the stigma is very stifling because we care, and I'm saying generally, like we care about, what people think, we care about stereotypes, and honestly, some of us are afraid. Maybe you didn't have the best experience when you first entered therapy. A lot of people enter therapy as children, and it is not the best experience for them. And so then when they become adults, it's like, nah, that didn't work for me. That's what they say. It didn't work for me, so I'm not doing that, So all of these things and more, honestly, feed into the stigma when it comes to mental health, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, especially like the mistrust. Because that's the biggest thing. I know, like sometimes when I just in conversations with people, and that's one of the things that kind of comes up is just not having that trust within the family in order to like speak, because there's so much, like you said, the stigmas and the client of what happened in the past. But moving beyond that, and I'm grateful for resources like yourself and people like you who are actually taking the time to listen and care, in order to help people move beyond traumas and stuff, because it takes years. Like sometimes, we're always a work in progress, and things that we think that are, just like little instances that are really not affecting us, like you said, it does come to a point where in your body, that mind body connection that you mentioned earlier. Actually, that's what I want to talk about next, is because when you just talked about how, everything got to stay in the family, don't be talking secrets and all that other stuff about what's going on here in this house, but talk about how that affects us physically, like, and even, we know what it does mentally, but like when you don't really get it out in the open and you don't seek the help that you need, talk to us about how that affects us.
So when I talk about the mind-body connection, and we can even go to the point of mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, all of it.
If you are a person that acknowledges the spirituality within, then it's like these are all interconnected principles that are within the same vessel. It's, in my opinion, impossible for my mental not to affect my physical, and my physical not to affect my spiritual, or the vibe that I'm putting out. Because it's like, think about the last time that you were sick, and think about how you were able to communicate with people. Your body is trying to heal. It's already probably running low on energy because so much of it is trying to heal. Now, the fact of the matter is, there have been times when, you'll hear like about somebody, being a little snappy when they're sick. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a biological explanation for that, right? But what happens when we are mentally sick or when we're emotionally sick, right? Think about those times and ask yourself if you might have still been a little short, or maybe overwhelmed, or maybe even lethargic with like lacking of energy. Think about how we feel after we experience major losses, how much energy you don't have. You know what I'm saying? Because of this loss that you've experienced. Think about when you find yourself, maybe experiencing some symptoms that might be associated with depression. When you're thinking about depression, a lot of times, that person is running low on energy, their body is not producing a lot of energy, and then some of the things that they're doing, like maybe staying to themselves, isolating, avoiding light, avoiding social interaction, not eating. Sometimes people are not sleeping, and those symptoms will absolutely affect your physical disposition. If I'm not getting sleep because of my symptoms, then my body is not getting a chance to recover from this day. It's not getting a chance to reset, replenish, and doing all the things that are needed for us that happen when we're out of the way, when we're sleeping. So if you're not getting good sleep, we know you wake up and you don't, have the best night's rest. They like to say you got up on the wrong side of the bed or something. Why? Because of your disposition, but you didn't get that rest. And so it's like when you start trying to split hairs, you got to ask yourself, there are some situations, tragic as they may seem, and they are, where you have people who we thought were doing very well based on what we saw.
Exactly.
Oh, they were this. Oh, they were that. And then you find out that they were not doing so well. But you only went by what you were able to observe. And a lot of times that's the physical, not realizing that there's something else going on. You know what I'm saying? And then there's sometimes when it goes in the opposite direction, and there are some mental issues that manifest in physical ways where you can actually see it. You know what I'm saying? Even with the people that, sometimes engage in self-harm. And I'm not talking about unaliving themselves or completing suicide. I'm talking about self-harm where they're cutting themselves. Some people may burn themselves or whatnot, and it's not for reasons necessarily to end their life, it's for other reasons. Well, if that's not a physical and mental connection, I don't know what is, because literally the mental anguish is what's leading to the physical assault. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's so many examples you could come up with, but it's absolutely a connection. And whenever you say your spirit is disturbed, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to understand you saying that your spirit is disturbed and there's no physical, indication of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to attune to all aspects of our being, whatever that is, whatever you acknowledge. We have to attune to those things to try to maintain that homeostasis, that balance within ourselves as well as in our environment.
Now, okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, Trina, is just kind of getting a little bit more information on the Rose Center. Let us know, like, who specifically do you service, and how would somebody go about booking a session? Like, how do you, this is a lot of questions. I'm going to hit you with a ton of questions. Let's start with this one. First of all, tell me about the Rose Center, and also like the specific services that you offer, and who specifically do you offer these services to? Let's start there.
Okay. So the Rose Center. So I would be remiss if I did not mention the reason why it is the Rose Center. So I know that people think that I named it after myself, but I did not.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
The Rose Center is named after my grandmother. I'm named after my grandmother. Oh, so she's my dad's mom, a very intricate person, like beyond, she is a granny, okay? My grandmother has been so intricate in my life from the moment I made my appearance, so to speak. And so I did that to honor her because of the impact that her love and care for me, the way that it affects the way that I, handle myself to this day, and just wanted to honor her while she still was able to see it. So she definitely still with us, okay? And I wanted her to be able, she always say, give her flowers while she can still smell them. It's what my grandma always say. So the Rose Center is her flower, literally, right? And my thing is, my grandma always taught us about treating people fairly, treating people, appropriately. My grandma is one of the nicest people I've ever encountered, you know what I'm saying? And so it's about just being respectful of other people, which is what you need in this space for sure. Yeah. And so I service clients 12 years of age and up. I am currently a network provider for some of our major insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Cigna, Evernorth. I also accept some Medicaid plans. It just depends on what plan you're in. And I'm also with Community Health Choice and Superior Health Plan, which also includes I'm Better. So that's a lot, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew, because there's so many insurance companies out there. I like to let people know what networks I'm in, because it's one thing to try to find a therapist when you've already made that decision, which may have been a hard decision, but then you look and you go through all of the talking about everything, and then they can't see you because they don't take your insurance. So I always hit that from the start, just so they can make a decision on whether or not they want to proceed, depending on my network participation, right?
Yeah.
And so I love cognitive behavior therapy. I love it because it's practical. It is not to bring people in my office and have them feeling like they're on top of the world for 1 hour and then sending them back in the world for 6 days and 23 hours to feel underneath it. And so my thing is, when we do things within the sessions, we're doing things and practicing skills that you can use in your life. That's what makes it practical. So you can start seeing changes in your actual life. And so that's what I like about it. I like the fact that you can explain it to people in a way that makes sense no matter what background. We're talking about how thoughts, feelings, and behaviors affect each other. You experience thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in every encounter you have. You're going to have some thoughts about it, some feelings about it, and some type of response. Even if it's no response, that's still a response. And so it behooves us to understand how those dynamics work together, because that's what's affecting how our lives turn out. That's what's shaping our lives. And so that's what we work on at the Rose Center. I also am trained in trauma practices, so I offer EMDR. It sounds a lot more complicated than what it is, but if you want to learn more about EMDR, it's EMDR. It stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It works wonders on trauma.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, if you want to know more about it, you can just research that because I don't want to rush through explaining that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I've also been trained in brain spotting, which is another trauma focus, emotion focused therapy. So at the Rose Center, I want to make sure that I can be who I need to be to the clients that come in my office. I am not everyone's therapist.
Yeah.
I am not everyone's therapist. I show up as myself. And sometimes I'm not the most orthodox. I mean, I definitely color my hair. I'm
Yeah.
one of those people. I will have red, purple, whatever, because that's what I want to do, and this is my vessel.
Yeah.
And I like to show people that there's no certain look that you have to
There
have
you go.
to show up to these spaces, because sometimes that's the other thing where people just don't know if they look the part. It's like, you don't have to look apart to come in here. And I've learned working in different spaces. When I worked crisis, when I worked in the children's spaces, because I used to be at a residential treatment center.
Oh, yeah.
Even when I worked at it's when you look a certain way, sometimes that creates another barrier.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
preach
so
on
it's
that.
like, I like to be relatable, like, because it's like now, once again, they used to call them stiff coats, so they used to call us shrinks.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to shrink your brain, and it's like, that's not even a comfortable visual, much less a comfortable idea. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I try to ensure, I mean, if you could see my office, everything in here has my clients in mind, from the color on the wall to the texture of the couch or the chairs. I have options for them to sit where they want. The lighting is more comforting, so it's not big bright lights and things. The smell in here, this whole space has been curated for my clients.
I love that.
Because we need spaces that have been curated for us, so that we don't have to think about all of that. I have the fidgets and the squeeze. I have all the things that I think my clients need, but they're situated to where it's not overwhelming. And that matters, And so with that being said, from the environment I create to the way that they're received, from the moment a person reaches out, the experience begins. I am the type of therapist, if time permits, I'm going to try to at least help you along the way, even if I realize that I'm not the therapist for you, or we're talking on the phone and you tell me that you don't have, this is not the insurance you have, or whatever the case is, then I'll try to at least give you some suggestions to keep it moving when it comes to searching, because sometimes if you get one no, people stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to remind them that this is for them and you are worth the search. Just like if you had a doctor that you didn't necessarily feel comfortable with, or if you had a doctor's office you wanted to go to but they don't accept your insurance. You don't stop there with physical ailments, but when it comes to mental ailments, we just stop. Like, well, whatever. We need to start treating our mental health just as important as our physical health, which goes back to what we were talking about before with that mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, it's just that you have to know that you're worth the search. You're worth it, right? And so when it comes to my clients, it's like, I'm going to tailor the sessions to literally meet the need of the client where they are. And so it might be us talking about the same thing for weeks. Yeah. If that's where you are, that's where you are. But if you come in with something different, I'm not the one that's going to try to delegate and force what we're going to talk about, because I need you to be able to be free in this space. You know what I'm saying? So I just really try to have that client-centered approach in this space, so that they can get to what they need to get to and feel what they need to feel. And even, like I tell my clients all the time, I want to try to help you to feel comfortable in your discomfort. Because this is not daycare or funland. I mean, we definitely are dealing with some stuff. And so it is some work, and I need people to know that. And it scares some people. But again, you're worth it. But therapy is work. Yeah. Which is why a lot of people avoid it, but you have someone there who is there to help you along the way. And so that's what I try to be.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. Go ahead. Uh-huh.
But you were saying how to contact me. So the best way to contact me, honestly, is through the website, because you get to fill out the contact the therapist form, and that gets a lot of the questions that I'll have to ask you anyway answered, like, what's your birthday? What insurance do you have? Those types of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you'll find if a person reaches out to you, and you guys can, of course, reach out to me via email or either text, but we're going to end up probably doing more of a back and forth discussing versus you being able to fill out that form and that information being there. So if you visit the website at the Rose Center-BMT.com and you select contact the therapist, the contact form on the right, you can fill in that information and we can get started. Normally we'll reach out to you within 48 business hours and we can get the process started that way. I do offer free, as I like to say, complimentary 15-minute phone consultations. Now, that is not therapy by any means, but it is a chance for us to have a discussion to get a gist of what it is you're looking for in a therapist, for us to kind of fill each other out as far as, like, if you think this is something that you want to do. Because I'm going to be a therapist whether that person comes to my office or not, but they are not necessarily going to be a client of mine. And so the thing is, it's about us kind of filling it out. I know everybody doesn't necessarily do the consultations, but I think that it saves time for the client as well as myself if, in fact, they realize that, one, this is not, the vibe that they were going for, or honestly, if they were looking for a specific type of therapy, because there are a lot of different types.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of different types of therapy. You know what I mean? So I think that would be the best. But as always, I'm available at the phone number at 409-212-4107. That is direct business line. It is a secure line. It is HIPAA compliant. So you can share what you need to share or whatever questions you have that way as well.
Oh, that's perfect. And do you do the virtual, the Zoom? Not Zoom, but
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Well, that's one of the modalities some people use, but I do telehealth as well
that's what
as in person. For anywhere in Texas, I've had clients as far as El Paso and as deep as the valley when it comes to Texas. So I am available as long as they have the bandwidth, so to speak, as far as like the internet services and stuff, because they still got to be able to connect.
Exactly. All right, understood. Well, you have already, provided a wealth of information, and before we move on to the next little part, you pretty much answered that. Like, I feel like we already know what this is, but I got to hear it from you. Like, how has working in the health field, specifically in the profession that you are currently in, how has that, molded or changed your perspective on life in general and just overall well-being?
Oh, man, it has matured me so much. And the thing is like, it goes even for as far back as college. Because when we're in those classes and when we're doing this, at some point it gets serious really quick because we're talking about life, we're talking about people, we're doing a lot of different things. And you'll learn from a lot of counseling and psychology students that sometimes we're each other's guinea pigs because you're in class and you're partnering up and you're doing these things. And then, of course, I had the experience of working with, once I was in grad school with undergrads in that same regard. And so what you're doing is that you're seeing people. And like I tell my clients all the time, I hear everything I say to you. Mm-hmm. So when I'm working with people, I'm consistently hearing what I'm saying. And, as they say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, I can't keep hearing about healthy communication and healthy boundaries and, all of these different things, assertiveness and whatnot, and not apply it because I'm hearing it all the time. In some instances, repetition is the basis for learning. You're reciting. And so a lot of times we don't understand what we're affirming. People don't think of bad affirmations. We don't call it that. When somebody says affirmations, we immediately think positive. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, whenever you're reciting those negative thinking, negative thoughts and those ways of approaching things and these generalizations, you're affirming them, which is why they stick, which is why that's the way you view the world, which is why that's the way you view yourself and others, because you affirm it often. So when you're working in a space like this, if you're genuinely doing the work and you've done some work, because of course that's a part of it as well, you're hearing yourself. And so for me, it has changed the way that I view conflict. It has changed the way that I view relationships. It has changed the way that I approach, certain things. I'm a lot more thoughtful about it, but I mean, I literally work and think all day. You know what I'm saying? This is just what I do. And so my thing is, what I've been able to do is maintain a level of humility, because I've seen people in their worst. You know what I'm saying? And when you see people in their worst, I think one of the quote unquote darkest spaces I've ever provided therapy was in the maximum security prison here up the road from us. And I literally worked with the individuals that stay in their cells 23 hours and they only get an hour out. And to be honest, all of them wasn't even getting that hour out. So you're talking about deep, all the way in the back of the facility on the last row in the darkest of dark. And it was a lot of things that I've seen and witnessed, been exposed to, and had to, work with people after. But the fact of the matter is, when you see humans, you're human. So when you see a person at their lowest point, not to mention I've been in those spaces with some of our young people too. The youngest person I did intake on when I was doing my internship in Tomball was 8 years old. And he had already tried to unalive himself. So it's like when you see all these different people from these different walks of life, different gender identity, different racial identity, different ethnic background, different regions, different everything, one thing that connects us is mental health, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like once you start realizing, I show people a lot more grace.
Yeah.
A lot more grace. And part of it is because in this space, because I'm in my office right now, some of my clients, I have to actually essentially instill grace within them. Like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit and let's think about that, because some people are very hard on themselves, very self-critical, don't think self-forgiveness is a real word, don't think self-compassion is a real word, when these are all real concepts. But because we're not taught that, we don't practice that. But we're taught to practice it with other people. The kinder I am to myself, the kinder I found I could be to others. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things that mental health has helped me to understand when it comes to perspective. The more I take care of myself, the more balanced I will be. And even when things don't work out the way that I would like them to, I'm still able to manage myself better through those experiences, because that's what I spend my life helping other people to do as well.
Wow. Yeah, that is, I mean, I'm at a loss for words, but thank you. That's all I have to say. But Trina Rose, before we get ready to wrap this up, we definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and just, lifting people up and letting us know, like, hey, it's okay to go and speak to somebody, or just to get the help that you need mentally. That's a part of our, like you said, our the whole being. So we have to make sure that we're taken care of. For anybody who's listening that needs those words of encouragement, please leave us with some words of encouragement, and also mention your website again and your social media handles if somebody wants to connect with you.
Okay. So when it comes to, and I wanted to make sure that I always like to mention insurance and EAP in any interview, anywhere I go, because I think that a lot of times people don't understand that, they have benefits that they're not utilizing.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, if you have insurance on your job, chances are you have EAP. Now, I'm not going to say that you for sure, but chances is a high likelihood that you guys have an employee assistance program that is associated with your company or associated with your insurance. And a lot of times, because you don't know that, you don't utilize it. But EAP, one of the services they offer is mental health services covered through their services at 100%. So depending on which company you're with, you have the chance of getting 3 free sessions within an insurance year. And some do 6, and some do more than that, but you don't know it if you don't look into it. And so you can utilize that to just test the water. Let me see what this therapy thing is about. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but let me see. And that way you can try it out, and it's not necessarily to any detriment to you financially or anything, to try it out. So check with your companies about your employee assistance program benefits, and also understand that if you have medical benefits, a lot of times, again, I'm going to say most likely, you have behavioral health benefits. That is what they call it in the insurance space. They call it behavioral health. That is the same as mental health. That is the same as counseling. That is the same as mental health therapy. They're all synonyms. And so the thing is, when you don't use it, it's like it's just sitting there. It's just there. So the thing is, you have benefits that you may not be taking advantage of. Mm-hmm. If you need to find a therapist, there are different directories. You can go on Psychology Today. You can go on Therapy for Black Girls. That is an actual directory. You can also go to your insurance company's website and look at find a provider, pick behavioral health, and you know how we filter things, put down your parameters, what city, what zip code, and it will give you a list of providers that are within your plan, so that you can start there instead of just calling around, right? Exactly. So those are tips I like to give people when it comes to looking for therapy. Word of mouth. A lot of clients that I get is word of mouth. People are like, well, such and such told me about you, and so this and that. So there are different ways to find the information. Again, if you find someone that you don't agree with, it is okay. Understand that just because that therapist wasn't the one for you doesn't mean you're still not worth finding a therapist for.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage you guys to do that. As far as I would like to do my socials first, and I want to end off with the encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So social media, if you go to Facebook at the Rose Center BMT, so TheRoseCenter BMT. And also I have a nonprofit organization, the Pop Psych Foundation, that we are actually launching right now. So I started off having a merchandise company where we promoted mental health awareness through fashion.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Expanded it and created, I have 2 journals I've created since then. And then also the main thing that we're doing with Top Psych, and now while it's been converted into a nonprofit, is because we want to provide funding for mental health services. So we promote awareness and provide funding for people who want therapy but can't afford it. And so with that being said, if you want to follow that journey and learn more about our mission there, it's at POPPSYCH on Facebook. So at Pop Psych, POPPSYCH on Facebook. I also have the Rose Center Instagram, same handle, the Rose Center BMT, and I affectionately call myself the Unicorn Therapist.
Hello.
Because of all the hair colors and whatnot. So if you go to TikTok and look up the Unicorn Therapist, UNICORN Therapist, TATRAPIST, you should find Trina Rose there as well. And lastly, on the website, the Rose Center, that's BMT.com, I do have a blog section, so you can go there and just check it out. Just some helpful information and tips about various topics. Now, when it comes to far as merchandise and whatnot, if you go to the Pop Psych page, you'll actually see the link to the online boutique where you can see some of the items that we have. And if you have anyone, I'm not sure when this is going to drop, but being that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are running a raffle that we do every year for any of our breast cancer survivors, our warriors who are still in the fight. If you go to the page, you will find the post, and you can tag anyone or yourself if you fit that criteria, and we'll be doing a drawing for a survivor or a warrior, whoever it is. And even if you're not in our area, we'll mail the gift to you. So you can check that out as well. So the thing about it is I think that we all deserve mental wellness. I think that the idea of mental health has been essentially how do you say? I think that the term has been weaponized. I think that it's been used against people. I think it has been used for ulterior purposes that causes the stigma that's on it to stick. But I want you all to know that first and foremost, healing looks good on all of us, and it has everyone's size. It's like a one size fits all, but the approach may not be. So at the end of the day, I think that I want to encourage you to understand that it is not selfish to choose you, because choosing you helps you to work on being the best version of yourself for you and everyone else around. So you think of yourself as a teacup sitting on a saucer. As you overflow, all of those around you and close to you will benefit. But when you run dry, there's nothing left for anyone. And so the thing is, we have to learn how to take care of ourselves so that we can be all that we want to be to others, but first to ourselves. So once you understand how to embrace the ideal of self-love, remember, you're your own guinea pig. So now you're learning how it feels to both give and receive love genuinely. And then when you go out into the world, you won't be confused about what love looks like or what it is. It'll feel familiar because you love you. And I think that that's a lot of what's lacking. So self-care is the best care. I am all about self-love. Love yourself, and you can love other people healthily as well.
Oh, love that. It's Trina Rose that's in the house. Y'all, I know y'all got them gems. I know y'all got all of them gems. Trina, we appreciate you. We appreciate you so much for coming in. And I know that this will drop in October, so we're good on that. But you definitely got to keep me posted with anything else that you're going to be rolling out. I don't know if you got any workshops or seminars. What? Look at me, I'm giving you all these assignments, or anything else coming out. But we definitely look forward to having you back on the show and appreciate your time today, y'all. Trina Rose, go check her out, the Rose Center, and also on the social media as well.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me.